All right, hey, what's going on? This is Shaan. In this video, I want to talk about sleeping issues and anxiety. Now, chances are, if you're struggling with anxiety, you're dealing with some sort of insomnia and you're not really sure why it's happening. You're just trying to sleep, but every time you sleep, you get these terrible symptoms. You may even be getting these what-if thoughts, like your mind may be going 100 miles an hour and you're just trying to sleep and you just can't do it. Or if you're like me, you would be waking up with panic attacks. And so, you'd have a panic attack while you were in the midst of sleeping, and you just can't sleep. So in this video, I want to talk about why this happens. Why do you have issues sleeping if you're struggling with anxiety and panic attacks, and what steps you can do to overcome it. So let's crack into it. Now, when it comes to sleep, it is important that when you're on your journey to overcome panic attacks and anxiety, sleep is crucial. And what I found is many people are very hard on themselves on trying to sleep. So I often find this behavior of, after a long time of not being able to sleep due to anxiety, it's very easy to add a lot of pressure to yourself. It's very easy to tell yourself, hey, look, I want to sleep. I need to sleep. I'm going to sleep extra 8 hours. I'm going to just do whatever it takes. I'm just going to stay here and try to sleep. And oftentimes you try to do that, but it just doesn't work. And that kind of demoralizes you. And you start feeling, well, God, I can't sleep. Like every night that I can't sleep, I'm not sleeping, which means my anxiety gets worse. So it's like this vicious cycle where you don't sleep, you get more anxious because you can't sleep. Now this cycle is a little bit interesting, and it's something I really struggle with. So really what I want to talk about right away is, look, what can you do to get more sleep? Because sleep is important. And the first thing, don't be so hard on yourself, okay? It's very important for you to recognize that oftentimes when sleep kind of falls into its own world, sleep and anxiety fall into its own world, and then the basic laws of the world that we are normally part of are different. And here's what I mean. If I really want something in real life, like if I really want this coffee, I'm going to do whatever I can to get this coffee. I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to drive to the nearest coffee shop, or I'm going to go to my apartment and grab coffee or make coffee. I'm going to just do whatever I can to make coffee. I'm going to get my coffee. And really, what determines how I get my coffee is the work I put in. If I'm willing to go out and drive out and grab some coffee, I grab coffee and I get it. Now, you can't use that same logic with sleep. You can't really tell yourself, well, okay, I'm going to sleep exactly at this time, and I'm going to get in bed, and if I don't sleep at this exact time, I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to fall asleep, You have to realize sleep doesn't work in that world. The more kind of neurotic you try to be about your sleep, the more dedicated, the more strict you try to be about your sleep, the less likely you are going to be able to sleep. So the first thing to recognize is, don't be so hard on yourself. Recognize that sleep kind of happens from relaxation, when you're relaxed. So how do you get yourself relaxed? Well, the first thing you should do is, when you go to bed, tell yourself this. If you sleep, you sleep. If you don't, it's fine. Okay? If you sleep all night, that's perfect. That's fine. If you don't sleep, that's okay too. You don't want to be too connected to outcome when it comes to sleep. You just lay there, and if you sleep, great. And if you don't. That's fine too. You don't want to be too hard. Now, that's the first mindset. Now, that kind of attitude kind of fosters this notion of sleeping better. The second step is, and this really, really, really helped me out, especially if you're somebody who's struggling with panic attacks when they sleep. Here's what you tell yourself. If I sleep, I sleep. If I don't, that's fine. But I'm going to stay in this bed for 8 hours no matter what. And I don't care if I get 5 panic attacks, 4 panic attacks, 3, 2, doesn't matter. If my mind constantly keeps wandering and I start ruminating about myself and I constantly feel like these what-if situations, I'm going to stay in bed as long as I need. And this often helps because a lot of times myself and people that struggle with anxiety, when they start feeling these symptoms get kind of loud and get kind of intense, they want to get out of bed because they want to do something else to distract themselves. But sticking in bed and having it go through kind of lets your body burn off all that excess adrenaline. Your body just burns off adrenaline through what-if thoughts or through palpitations or by a panic attack. And if you just lay in bed and say, look, I'm just going to stay here and let everything happen to me, that actually also kind of fosters and cultivates this ability to sleep better. And then my third and final point, this one really helps as well. This one actually made the difference between me not sleeping for a very long time with anxiety and panic attacks to being able to start sleeping, which is whenever you have these irrational thoughts or these scary, obsessive, thinking, this constant rumination, it's very easy to identify yourself with those thoughts. The best way to get around that is by identifying that these thoughts that you're having, they're not actually your thoughts. You're not necessarily creating them. What's happening is that your body's using excess adrenaline and trying to burn it off through thinking worst case scenarios. So it constantly is thinking out different things. It's trying to become hypervigilant. It's doing cost benefit analysis. It's doing these what if questions. And it's doing that because it's just trying to burn off excess adrenaline. So here's what you do. If you start having those thoughts, let it burn itself out. So if you start having thoughts about what if I have a panic attack, what am I going to do the next morning? Oh my God, I can't believe I've been struggling with this for so long. Why does this happen to me? Let these thoughts happen. Let them occur. Let them burn themselves out. Don't engage. Become the observer. Become the observer of these thoughts. Now, it's very easy to sometimes fall into that trap of starting to identify with those thoughts. But the best thing to do is really just practice mindfulness. Recognize these thoughts are thoughts. Observe these thoughts. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to engage. You don't need to react. Just observe them. And observe it without any sort of judgment or any sort of guilt or anything like that. Just observe them as thoughts. And in fact, even better, identify them as just excess adrenaline. When you do that, it burns itself out. And oftentimes, I would actually fall asleep in the middle of excess adrenaline being burnt out, or in the midst of a panic attack. I would actually literally fall asleep in the middle of one. And that really made a big difference because then I was able to sleep continuously for long periods of time, which was hugely beneficial for me in recovering with panic attacks. So hopefully you guys find this info valuable. If you guys want to know more, if you guys really want to get in depth, if you guys are serious about overcoming this, I have a link down below, which is a private Facebook group. When you hit that Facebook group, it's going to ask you to join. When you hit join, it's going to ask you 3 specific questions. It's very important for you guys to answer those 3 questions. We're trying to let as many people in the group as possible, but we're also trying to maintain the integrity of the group. Now, in that group, I'm very active, and I'm posting things on there that I'm not posting on any other platform. So it goes a lot more in depth about why this happens and what you guys can do to fix it and overcome and fully become free from anxiety and panic attacks. So if you guys are serious, the link is down below. I'll see you guys inside.